Hi, and welcome to our webcast for September 16, 2016. My name is Christian Lebré, and this is Amy Asbrook, the director of Toujours Vivant, Not Dead Yet.
Hello.
Toujours Vivant, Not Dead Yet is a non-religious organization by and for people with disabilities and our allies. Our goal is to inform, unify, and give voice to the disability rights opposition to assisted suicide, euthanasia, and other ending of life practices that discriminate against people with disabilities. Today's topics: the massacre of 19 disabled in Japan draws muted response. Second subject: Government of Canada consultation on accessibility. So to speak about it, Amy Asbrook.
Thanks. Okay, the massacre of 19 disabled people in Japan draws muted response. In the early hours of July 26th, 19 disabled people were killed and 26 were injured when a former employee stabbed them in their beds in a care home in Sagamihara, Japan.
So it makes 45 people who was injured in this massacre.
Yeah.
And nobody heard about it. Almost nobody.
Right. There was very little in the news about it. The only place where I heard about it was in the disability rights on Facebook, spread by people with disabilities.
But it's enormous, 45 people. When a small bomb explodes somewhere, who killed 2 people and injured 5, we heard in a big title in newspaper all around the world. And 45 people and nobody knows what happened.
Right. This was the largest mass killing in Japan since World War II.
Oh.
So it was a big event in Japan, but there's very, very little coverage of it. Even in Japan, there was a few newspaper stories, but not that much. The man later turned himself in, saying, "It's better that disabled people should disappear." So that tells us what his motivation was.
Yeah, it's discriminatory. It's enormous discriminatory. I kill disabled people.
Right. This was a hate crime.
Yeah.
It was very clearly a hate crime directed at people with disabilities because, as he said, he wanted them to disappear. According to news sources, the alleged perpetrator had tried to deliver a letter to the leader of the lower house of parliament several months ago, offering to kill up to 470 people whom he said should be euthanized if they could not, quote, carry out household and social activities, unquote.
Oh, it's close to what happened before the Second World War. And have to remember that Japan was allied to Germany in Second World War.
Right, right.
So it's still some very nauseous thinking about people, disabled people.
Right. And he had tried to submit that letter, and he was saying what he was going to do, that he was going to kill people, when and how he was going to do it. And so he was put in a hospital for a few days, but then he was released.
And nobody
followed up on him.
No follow.
Right.
Oh, great. Nice work of Japan police.
The Tsukuri Yamayuri N facility has refused to release the names of the people killed and injured, citing confidentiality concerns.
I understand for people who was injured, but that's not normal to not release the name of people who was killed.
Right, exactly.
It's a public domain.
Right, exactly. It's a public domain information, and few of the families have come forward to publicly acknowledge their dead relatives. And that, again, is a sign of the kind of society that Japan is.
Generalized discrimination.
Right.
Exactly what we talk about for years now.
Right, and people are ashamed of their disabled relatives, so they don't want to talk about them. And so when they get killed, nobody talks about them.
And a society who doesn't protect weak people is a very bad society and doesn't want to live in those kind of society.
Right. Despite the viciousness of the attack and the number of people killed and injured, the Japan massacre has received very little attention in the mainstream press and social media. Contrast that with the outpouring of public sympathy and solidarity after the January 2015 shootings at Charlie Hebdo.
Yeah, it's not as big as Charlie Hebdo, and nobody heard about it.
And elsewhere in Paris that killed 20 people. So in January of 2016, everybody was saying, I'm Charlie Hebdo.
Yeah, but you never heard about I'm disabled,
Japan.
or I'm with disabled in Japan or something like that.
Right, exactly.
Nobody heard about it.
Nobody was saying that, even though they were killed because they were disabled. Many people in the disability community believe the lack of recognition of this tragedy is because the victims were people with disabilities in a society that stigmatizes disability.
I think I believe it.
So it's not just the Japanese society that stigmatizes disability, but it's the world society. It's all, Western culture too, that doesn't see people with disabilities as valuable enough to even talk about when there's a mass hate crime.
It's not understandable in an evoluted society like Japan, who is as evoluted as USA or Canada involved.
Right.
Unbelievable.
Right. So in the disability community, there's been a lot of recognition of what happened and a lot of mourning about it and talking about it. But outside of the community, nobody hears about it.
Disabled people are people.
Right. Right, exactly. But, a mass killing of disabled people doesn't register in the same way as a mass killing of non-disabled people.
So it's kind of another proof of what's happening in discrimination.
Right. It's another proof of the discrimination and the way disabled people are seen as disposable. Okay, our next topic is the Government of Canada consultation on accessibility. The Government of Canada is preparing to introduce a law to improve accessibility across the country. Because it is a federal law, it can only affect the aspects of daily life over which the federal government has jurisdiction. So the law could...
Yeah, it's kind of limited, but federal doesn't involve normally in social subject.
Right, it could be rather limited in scope. The federal government regulates things like the Postal Service, interprovincial trade, criminal law, federal lands, First Nations, currency, and banks. So that's certainly some aspects of daily life, but things like social services and health are regulated by the provinces. And so any law, any solution would have to involve the provinces, and that could be a tricky problem because of the difference between the federal government and provincial governments.
And province keep their own power, which is normally politically correct.
Right. One possible solution to this problem is that the federal government could also create a model statute and offer it to the provinces to adopt, so they could sort of say this is an example of the kind of law that the provinces could adopt to create accessibility in the areas that the provinces regulate. This could create consistency, at least among the provinces that choose to adopt the model civil rights law. Now, it's pretty touchy in Canada how what powers the federal government and what powers the provinces have, and it's more so than it is in the United States. In the United States, a lot of that was fought out literally in the Civil War, but Canada never had a civil war, so it's still very touchy what the federal government gets to do and what the provinces get to do. So the Americans with Disabilities Act, the government used its power to tax and spend, and also its power to regulate interstate commerce to impose a civil rights law. But in Canada, the federal government doesn't really have that same level of power over the provinces that it does in the United States. So that's why it's going to be a lot harder to get a federal law in Canada. And it's
It should.
It's
in
a little
Canada,
bit
it happened like interprovincial conference where everybody agree on something. But
right.
normally the federal should not go inside some power of the provincial things.
Right, and usually such interprovincial conferences, it takes a lot to get them to happen, and
Yeah.
disability isn't generally the kind of issue that people hold interprovincial conferences
Yeah,
about.
they will pass easier the buying of few planes like F-35 who are deep shit things, but they will not talk about disability people.
Right. The federal government has started a consultation process to solicit the opinions of Canadians with disabilities to see what accessibility means to the estimated 14% of Canadians who have a disability.
Only 14?
Yeah, well, the way that Canada counts disabled people is through the census, and it's not the same kind of counting of disabled people that other countries do. Other countries, it's estimated around 17 to 20% have a disability, and Canada doesn't count it the same way.
Could we be different as France or Belgium or Netherlands or
Right.
USA?
Right, exactly. So I think the figure is actually higher than 14%, but that's the official figure they use.
It's closer of 17%.
Right, right. I think that's
anyway,
true.
we're getting old, everybody, and when we get old, we became to be disabled.
Right. It's essential that each person participate in this consultation process by attending one of the local hearings and or submitting comments. In order for disabled people to enjoy real choices in life, there must be universal accessibility and an end to discrimination in public services, in public spaces, retail and commercial establishments, housing, transportation, recreation, government services, civic affairs, communication, and employment. All those areas need to be free of discrimination for people to have choice. And as we've often said, you can't be a free choice to die as long as people don't have a free choice in where and how they live. This is about making free choices in how you live. If you are faced with discrimination all the time, you don't have a free choice. So anti-discrimination laws are key to having a free choice, and this is putting together an anti-discrimination law.
Yeah, it's very crucial. You need it to have a free choice, really free choice.
Right.
Real free choice.
As it stands now, accessibility and non-discrimination are inconsistent and piecemeal, provided for by charters, court cases, and provincial laws that make a patchwork of rights and privileges that are difficult to enforce. An overarching law or set of laws that creates consistent standards and remedies throughout the country for everything from grab bars to sign language interpreters to accessible websites is the only way to turn the equality promised by the Charter of Rights into real access that people can use in their daily lives. So, you know, the Americans with Disabilities Act, it was passed more than 26 years ago now. And it, you know, there are a lot of nice civil rights laws that say that people with disabilities shouldn't be excluded. But it needed a very specific law to say how people with disabilities have to be included. Because it isn't enough just to say you can't forbid somebody to enter your establishment. You have to make it possible for the person to enter your establishment.
Yeah.
And that's the difference for people with disabilities. So there needs to be laws that explain how to do it and make enforceable standards to do that. So that's why this kind of law is so important.
You just have to remember the few last time that we have to go to vote. They found many places where the voting place was not accessible.
Right, and it's not enough to say that people with disabilities can vote by absentee ballots, because that's not integrated. And the more people with disabilities are set aside and hidden in segregated environments, the less people will see us, the more the attitudes about, well, they're never in, I don't see them anywhere, they don't really exist, or they're not important.
And the problem is not them. Problem is us, because us, we will become disabled, that we like it or not.
Right, exactly. For more information on the consultation and how you can offer your comments, visit their website at http://canada.ca/accessible-canada. And that's the website where you can get all the information about the consultation process. So if you want more information about the subjects that we talk about here, you can visit us on our Facebook page at facebook.com/toujours vivant, not dead yet. That's all a single word. You can visit us on our website at tvndy.ca. You can send us an email at info@tv-ndy.ca, or you can follow us on Twitter @TVNDY. Thanks very much to Christian for helping us out.
Thank you, Amy.
And thanks to you for being here, and we'll see you next time.
Take care.
Goodbye.
Bye.